Today we're going to talk about 6 different ways that you can DIY workbooks at home, and I'm talking about producing them, not actually designing them, just taking the pages that you've already created, printing them out at home, and making your own workbooks. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Pretty Fabulous, and I help online businesses create beautiful digital downloads, including workbooks, using Adobe InDesign. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I post new videos every Monday and Thursday, and I do unboxings on Saturday. Today I'm going to be showing you 6 different ways that you can create workbooks at home, and I do this if I have a small event or I have a client that maybe just has 10 or 12 people. They don't really want to spend a lot of money on professional workbooks, especially if they are still working out the contents and want to beta test them on a first event. So what can you do at home with some of your own supplies? Now, the first one is the easiest one, and that's simply to put everything into a binder. Now, you can buy a binder. I would suggest getting one with one of these plastic covers so you can put your own cover inside, and the same thing with the spine. I wouldn't worry too much about the back. And then again, you can swap pages in and out as needed. You obviously will have to buy your own tab dividers and whatever system you want for tabs. The second method is a little bit more involved, and I talk about this a lot in my planner course, and you've seen planners like this that have the spiral binding, and I would suggest purchasing a Heidi Swapp Cinch. Now, the cinch is pretty affordable. I think it's maybe 100 and something. You can pick those up at Michael's or Joann Fabrics or purchase them online, and they're really great for helping to create a professional looking workbook that will lay open flat. Not everybody wants one that has a binding in it. For this one, you'll obviously have to buy your own thicker cardstock for the front and back cover, or maybe a chipboard that you create in order to make it a little hardier and a little bit higher end. The third method is to use what's called a U-clamp. Now, a U-clamp is, you're going to need 2 pieces. You're going to need a cover like this, and the cover is going to be, I don't know if you can see this, but it's empty. There's nothing in here. There's sort of a divot right here where you would put the clamp, and the clamp would go on the inside. And once you have the clamp, it's going to look, once you have a clamp, this is a smaller one, it's going to hold those pages in by tension, just like the chip clip holds your chip bag closed. The same thing, you'll put all the papers in here and they will all be held in by a tension rod, and now you have a nice book. And the nice thing about this is it is a hardback, and you don't have to create the hardback on your own. And instead, what I would do is I would buy stickers and simply just put a sticker on the front as your cover with your logo. The fourth method is to use a self-adhesive Photobook. Now, if you've never seen these are kind of nice too because they already come with a cover, and you can get them hardback or a paper soft cover or a vinyl cover. But how they work is each page is basically a big sticker. It's already been put together, and you simply just tear off the adhesive and then you put your page inside. Now, this is one that is already done. You can't even tell. It looks like a regular book, and each of these pages was a sticker. So I print these out and then I just lay the page down on top of here. Now, I would not recommend this for an 8.5 by 12 workbook. I would recommend this for a smaller workbook, only because it does get a little difficult to line those pages up correctly, and once you take the adhesive off and lay the paper down, you don't really get a second chance. The fifth method is to simply use what's called stitch binding. Now, if you've never heard of stitch binding, it is simply taking a needle and thread and actually stitching through the middle of a notebook. So that means that you need to print this entire page out on your printer, lay all of the sheets flat. So you're going to have to know the right and the left, the right and the left. So you're going to have to be very organized to do this. You're going to stitch it right down the middle, and then when you close it, it's going to be a nice little workbook, so you will have to stitch through the cover. If you have a sewing machine, a really heavy duty one, that's probably going to work. There are a lot of tutorials out there on how to stitch these at home on your own as well, but I've actually always gotten this outsourced. And again, if you're in my planner course, we go through this a lot more in detail. Now, another type of stitch binding too that you'll notice is if you have many notebooks adhered into one big one. So when you stitch through, obviously obviously, even the largest, most industrial needle is not going to go through a ton of pages. So what you will typically see if you look very closely is with stitch binding, there will be a few notebooks within a notebook. So in here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitch bound notebooks that are then put side by side and then glued together, as you can see, with just this little black spine that's held all 4 of them together, and then it's also holding the cover together. So that's another idea that you could use for stitch binding if you have a very large workbook. And finally, the 6th method is to simply use a staple instead of stitching. So the same thing, you are going to print out all of your pages, so you have to know the right and the left very clearly, and then you're going to lay them all on top of each other, bend them in the middle, and right through the middle you're simply going to put staples. Now, you probably cannot use your home stapler because when you put it in, it's probably going to stop right here. You're going to have to get a larger industrial size stapler. Sometimes if you run out to Kinko's, they will have one that you can just borrow and use on site. But then you have a very professional looking workbook that was simply stapled together. All right, so let's go over what we just learned. First, you could use a binder, which I think is the easiest way to create your at-home workbook. The second is to use the Heidi Swapp Cinch machine. The third is to use a U-clamp. The fourth is to use a self-adhesive Photobook. The fifth is to simply stitch the book together, and the fifth one is to staple it. I hope that was helpful, and again, all of these look very professional, and it's really just a matter of what your personal preference is and how much work you're willing to put in, because they all are a little easier or difficult depending on how many supplies that you have at home in your house. If you are interested in learning more about how to design your own workbooks and produce them and deliver them, then make sure to sign up for Incredible Workbooks. I will leave the link below, and in that course we'll be designing a lot of different layouts, going through event workbooks, webinar workbooks, course workbooks, programs, and what those look like in each situation, and also we'll be going over digital workbooks. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, make sure to sign up for the early bird list. That course will be launching very soon. I hope to see you in that course, and if not, I will see you guys next week. Bye.